Experience work interactions in a different and refreshing light. This is the Leader in You podcast, brought to you by EMC Leaders, taking care of the teams you care about, as well as the connected culture. Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of the Leader in You podcast. My name is Dr. Lola Gershfeld, and I'm so happy to be here with you. I'm missing my co-host, Palina, who is due to be back next week. So I'm really looking forward to having conversations again with her. It's so fun to talk to her, and I think it brings life to our podcast. I'm grateful for you to be here and to listen and to join us on this important topic of workplace relationships, team connections, and really creating a connected, thriving culture, which I'm very passionate about. And I see a huge difference when people really use the attachment framework and use the emotional connection process. I did a team session yesterday, and I was reflecting on how much my approach to resolving conflict has changed over the years using the attachment framework. First, I don't take sides. I provide safe space for people to share their experience. Second, we validate each person so they feel heard, they feel valued and mattered. Third, we focus on the process instead of looking at the content. By the end, people become more open and flexible. And this is what happened with this team. I remember working as an HR manager, CFO, and board member, and I really struggled helping people. I mean, you listen to one side, you listen to the other side, and then you try to explain one side needs to agree with the other side. By the time you finish, you start going back and forth, trying to figure out whose side is really the right side. And you get very exhausted from these conversations. You don't even have the energy to do your job at the end. So nothing in my schooling that I experienced prepared me for what I was experiencing. And what I saw that nobody really understood why people would be distressed and why we couldn't just move forward. I felt like saying, come on, somebody help us. We are stuck here. But I see now over and over again that people just don't have the right tools. They don't recognize the pattern that they get stuck in. And all the corporate training out there, nothing really addresses the problem and the solution and gets to the heart of the matter like the attachment theory does. And the problem is completely different. It's no longer what anybody says. It's about sending the emotional signals. So I'm not intimidated by emotions anymore. I can be there with the person. I can hold their space when they're upset. I can slow things down with them. And I can go high with their voice. I can go low with their voice. I can understand what happens right before they become stressed. Because I'm using the attachment framework, I have a map to lead them through these experiences so they can understand themselves better. It is so fascinating to see this transformation take place. And you can do it because I have a map. So I was always curious about people's behavior, and I would really pay attention to the process of the interactions. And I learned that listening to the content of the conversation wasn't always what was going on. There were different levels to a conversation. And so I feel that attachment theory provided me this roadmap to understand what goes wrong in relationships and how to put them right. How we interact with each other, how we connect, and how we disconnect all fits with who we are as human beings. And we can do lots of things with our feelings, but we have them whether we like it or not. We are human beings. Whether you know it or not, no matter how you're taught to deal with your feelings, they are there. And they have regularity to them. They have a pattern to them. The pattern makes sense. The emotions that are pushing this dance that people get caught in are powerful. And there's really no point of dismissing them or stop feeling them. So I remember going to a class and the professor would say, well, what you do is you basically teach people how to be nice to each other. And right then and there, I thought to myself, that's not going to work. Is that all you do? Well, thank goodness for John Bowlby's work, who was the father of attachment theory. And John Bowlby only had time in his life to write about the bond between mother and child. And this was before anyone had really related it to adults. So when I started learning about John Bowlby's work and looked at workplace conflict, I thought to myself, oh my gosh, the dance is the same. Well, yes, the baby is incredibly dependent and the mother has to take care of the baby, but it's the same way they respond to each other. It is the same way they send powerful emotions to each other. They need this connection. Emotions look the same. And it started to completely enthrall me. It completely grabbed me. And before I knew the full impact of it, I started to talk about it. I started to write about it. I created a course about it, which was unpopular, I might add. I remember I got this project working with a company, and they wanted to improve their culture at all different levels, starting with the board level, all the way to the frontline employees. And I introduced the main leaders to this approach, and we started to see these amazing results. Meetings became much more productive. People became more engaged. There was more discussion, more participation. People were volunteering to help each other, to take on initiatives and projects. They were providing ideas and solutions. There was a lot more collaboration going on. And I just became absorbed and enthralled in seeing people transform from the board all the way to the customer service level and everyone in between. I was very proud to be part of this. And now it feels like to me that more and more people are seeing this enormous impact emotions and emotional connection have on our interactions. We can now see what is happening in the relationship and how they get stuck in this dance of disconnection. So using the attachment framework and the emotional connection process, or EMC, we know how to change the dance to repair the connection because the dance has a structure to it. Emotions have a structure to it. Relationships have a structure. And if you know the key variables, the key things that are driving everything, the key organizing factors, and start to change those, you can change your living system, just like a relationship. We know that these powerful dances impact the way we see ourselves, the way our emotional landscapes work, the way our nervous system responds to stress. And we have learned so much about team connection and relationships that not just about performance, yeah, that's part of it, but emotional connection is an ancient wired-in survival code. It is designed to keep the people we depend on close to us. When you have those people close to you, that is a safety cue in your nervous system. You don't have to be vigilant for danger. You can share the load of stress, and it literally frees you up. When someone has your back and you're standing beside someone, you can, on a bigger, broad level here, but you can literally adapt to life and grow and change and sort of expand as a person and find your strength. Ironically, the more securely connected you are with people you depend on and trust, the more separate and different and authentic you can be. So this is very important stuff. You can understand relationships, you can understand what goes wrong and how to put your relationships back on track. I mean, I'm not going to lie to you about it. It's work, but it can be done. We have a roadmap. And once you learn it, it stays with you forever, and it impacts all of your relationships. Using this approach, you are going to be way ahead above anyone else, because with hundreds of studies now, the results are astonishing. We can now show people, we don't just make people satisfied with their relationship, we actually change the bond. We change how they bond with each other, we change their connection. And if you look at the studies in attachment, it has really exploded in the last 10 years. So much has happened. It is so important to us. It is important to our health, how we live our lives, how we see ourselves. And most of the world doesn't know about this approach. I was talking to a reporter the other day and I asked, why don't you put it all over the front page of the New York Times that we have cracked the code to workplace conflict? We have cracked the code to team relationships, and we know what goes wrong and we know how to fix it. And here's what we can do. We have this amazing roadmap to create this connected culture. Why don't you put that on the front page of the New York Times? And she said, well, isn't that just common sense? And I said, common sense? If it would be a common sense, we wouldn't have 85% of employees dealing with conflicts on some level every day. We wouldn't have such a high turnover. We wouldn't have 60% of our workforce disengaged at work. If that would be common sense, companies would create emotionally safe environments and strong relationships all the time. But they don't, because they don't know how. I said, listen, this whole science of bonding has changed how we see everyone, how we see relationships, how we see children. It changed how we parent our children. It revolutionized adult relationships. And now we can revolutionize leadership teams, and company cultures, and approach performance issues and productivity in a different way. I'm a psychologist. I look at mental health, how people deal in crisis in their lives. And what I see is that emotional isolation destroys us as human beings. We are not wired for it. We can't cope with it. Our nervous system isn't designed for it. So having an emotional connection with people we depend on, where we feel that we matter to others, that we value to others, is like oxygen to us. This is important to us in our mental health, in our physical health. And so for me, this is urgent stuff. Everyone needs to know about this. Team relationships make sense. And if you understand it, you can shape it. You can deliberately shape the dance and the way you interact with each other. You don't have to be stuck. It doesn't have to take over your relationship. It doesn't have to take over your work. You can understand emotions. You can understand people's longings and fears. There's only so many ways of dancing with people on your team. The problem in relationship isn't conflict. The problem isn't because people are different. Everybody basically are different and incompatible. I've been married to my husband for 43 years, and I can guarantee you we are different. You know, one of the things he likes to go to is the hardware store. I love to dance Argentine tango. So everybody different. Everybody fights. What we've understood speaking in language that really fits for us now is that conflict in the relationship is the inflammation. The virus is emotional disconnection. And no place where we can get our deep wired in longing for connection met if we don't know how to talk about that. If we don't know how to accept it and own it, if we don't know how to talk to each other in a way that helps our team members come close to us so that we can create safety for each other, it's not going to happen. So that is the issue. So we have to understand so much about attachment, and we have understood so much in the last 10, 20 years. We've treated work interactions like it's a deal, like tasks, like contracts. Work relationship is not a contract or a deal. It is an emotional bond. But we've treated like that. So therefore, we said to ourselves, okay, it's a deal. It makes make rational deals. You need to collaborate with each other. You need to make compromises. You need to teach people communication skills, negotiation skills. Teach them how to problem solve together, right? Teach them active listening. And it's still happening all over the world. All of this energy going into teaching people skills. The issue is it's on the wrong level. It's not a cognitive problem. You can learn communication skills or negotiation skills. Oh my gosh, I remember listening to all these tapes over and over again about negotiations. The issue is when you lose your emotional balance with people you depend on, like your manager, your peer, your direct report, your brain is flooded with danger, like, oh my gosh, I'm going to be rejected and abandoned here. I could lose this relationship. Maybe I don't matter to this person. In that moment, your whole nervous system is zinging with danger. You don't give a damn about the little set of communication skills in that moment that are sitting in here. It just doesn't work. What works is for you to be able to go in and get your emotional balance and accept your vulnerabilities and your needs and see the other person's vulnerabilities and needs, and to have powerful experiences of being able to reach for each other in those experiences. They are survival experiences that your brain knows that these events matter and your brain holds on to them. I mean, think about it. We watch movies. We remember scenes from movies where people are bonding. We remember scenes from movies where people are vulnerable and where they find other people to hold on to. Why do we remember those movies? Because our whole nervous system says that matters. That matters. That is safe haven for us. That is secure base for us. That matters. We need that kind of interaction like we need oxygen. So you give people these kind of experiences. It changes how they deal with emotions, how they deal with their basic longings. It changes their safety, their basic safety with each other. It changes how they dance together in the moments of vulnerability. You could say that's a skill on one level, but it is more than a skill. It is an experience. Most of us, we have never even seen what we call a bonding conversation, which is when people can really share their vulnerabilities and ask for what they need, accept their needs, and get a response to their needs from each other. They can say things like, I've always doubted. I always felt like I wasn't smart enough or intelligent enough deep inside. I always doubted myself that you really don't see me as valued as the other people on the team. And every day I find I'm unsure and I'm so scared that you don't really want me to be on this team. I'm so anxious all the time. So what I do, I push you for answers. I push you for responses. And I end up pushing you away. And that's because there's a part of me that's always doubting if I am good enough for you. When someone can turn and say that, they are opening the door. They have accepted their feelings. Their manager or team member or peer sees them, the other person can hold space for them. When you have those kind of conversations, you don't need to learn active listening, which is kind of a formula. You can dance together. You can change level when you need to and find each other at that deep understanding. That is the basis of secure bond. Securely bonded people depend on correlating every single measure of mental health. Securely bonded people are more assertive. They're more sure of themselves. They like themselves more. They're more compassionate to others. They're better at dealing with ambiguity and stress. They're more resilient. They're less likely to be depressed when they're traumatized or when the change happens. They collaborate better, they engage, they support each other more. They are better at reading cues on other people's faces so they can catch those moments of disconnection. And most of us have never even seen this type of conversation. When we do our training programs, you see people doing this, and it's very intoxicating. I'll give you an example. This director of engineering says, and this is classic because we taught men to solve problems, right? To stay in their heads. So this director of engineering says, well, she's angry all the time at me. I don't know what to do. She yells at me and complains that I don't respond. And I try to say things, but no matter what I say, she's going to be disappointed. I just go still and silent because I don't know what to say to her. So I turn away and I leave. Because if I say anything, it will make it worse. And I don't want to do that. So I leave. And I say, have you ever seen anybody, or could you even imagine, or have you ever tried imagining turning to her and saying this? It's so difficult for me because I can't bear to hear that you are disappointed in me. And I don't know what to do now. And he looked at me and he said, no, I've never seen anybody do that. That's crazy. I'm not doing that because if I do that, she'll know I'm an idiot. So all his fears come up in that moment that she wouldn't want to know his fears. I say, okay, so can you try? And I've noticed the way he did it, he had to do it slowly. If you want to have emotions work for you, you have to slow it down. Emotion is fast and it overwhelms people. So we slow it down, we listen, we validate. So I say, I want you to turn to Helen and I want you to say, if you can, I want you to tell Helen what we've been talking about. Can you tell her that? It hurts me when I feel that you are so disappointed in me. And I don't know what to do. It confuses me. So what I do is I turn away. I do it because I can't bear that you're so disappointed in me. And I don't know what to do about it. I don't know what to say to you to make it better. And so he does it. And he does it like that because I've showed him how to do it. I also help him to organize his emotions, which helps him to feel less overwhelmed and more accessible to his vulnerabilities. When we use the EMC reconnection form, it helps us to slow things down, to recognize our triggers, to recognize our sensitivities, to identify the surface emotions, the softer emotions, the primary emotions. When we feel less overwhelmed, we can cope with it and we can be really clear on our message. And Helen looks at him with tears running down her cheeks, and she holds that space for him. I never knew that, she says. Thank you for sharing. That really touches me. And it is a horrible feeling to have. I don't want you to feel that way. He looks at me and he says, what just happened? He couldn't believe the response he got. But you know what happened? I don't have to explain that story to you in long, abstract words. You know what happened. He showed up emotionally. He became vulnerable. He told her underneath, my distancing and what looks like my indifference and my control, that scares you. I'm scared of your disapproval because you matter to me. That's what he told her. And it just evokes this emotional response. And she says, which is classic because we taught women to focus on relationships and check relationships out and depend on those relationships. And we taught men to shut down their emotions because they think they will be more self-sufficient, right? So that's not the case. We are all human beings and we all have emotions. So Helen turns to him and says, I don't need you to fix everything. I don't need you to fix the problem. I don't need you to solve my issues when I come to you and I share with you. I don't need you to perform at some superstar. I just need you to know that when I'm sharing with you, it matters to you. I want to discuss problems with you. Just you being there is my solution, is the solution I'm looking for. I want to be able to collaborate and brainstorm together. And when you shut down, I get so scared. I feel like I can't really reach you. And she's saying something very profound, and it blows my mind because she wants the connection with him. That's why she's getting angry and pushing for that. You see, the big thing in distressed relationship is one person realizes that there's some sort of connection has been lost. And it happens in relationships all the time. So they start to feel sort of disconnected and alone. They feel like they don't matter in that moment, or they feel not valued. They feel that somehow they've been dismissed or neglected. So what happens is they start to push for that connection. The other person doesn't respond. And so it turns into now real pushing. It turns into, I'll make you respond. I remember being stuck in that type of negative cycle long time ago, years ago, when I worked as the CFO at this company, and my CEO would not respond to me. And I would go crazy. I would do anything for him to respond to me. I would call him out in meetings. I would point out his mistakes or when he broke promises. Anything to get a response from him, which of course got us more and more deeper into the negative cycle. In attachment relationships, there's one multi-million-dollar question, and that question is, are you there for me? Are you there for me is ARE. Are you accessible to me? Are you open to me? Are you responsive to me? Are you engaged with me? Are you there for me? Are you on the dance floor with me in that emotional music? If the answer comes back as a maybe or a no, the other person pushes harder. I'll make you respond to me. I want to matter to you. They look like they're attacking, blaming, putting you down, or being critical, judgmental, trying to hurt you. But they're not. They're really screaming for connection. The other person distances. So you get this one person demanding, protesting the distance. And it's not clear they're protesting the distance, right? Even they sometimes don't know why they're so angry. They're pushing for connection. We see them pushing for this connection, and the other person says, oh, you know, I failed. I've blown it. I'm being rejected. This person is angry at me. I don't know what to do. I just shut down. So the more they shut down, the more they shut the other person out. The more they shut the other person out, the more their longing for connection comes up. The lonelier they get, the more desperate they feel, and the more they push. So people get stuck in those type of dances over and over and over again. And that is how team dynamics breaks up, how the culture goes bad. With just little moments when team loses their connection, they get stuck and they don't know how to get out of that. And by changing team members, by firing, hiring, the dance maybe changes for a little, for a short period of time, but it comes back again because nobody really can stand back and say, hey, look at this pattern we are caught in. So what we do, we help team members, we help leaders, we help people at work to stand back and say, look at your dance. You are caught in this dance. It leaves you alone, frustrated, rejected. It leaves you abandoned. It leaves you helpless. And we blame the dance. We say, you guys are caught in this terrible negative dance. So people start to see it and start to create sort of a platform a safe haven where they can say, hey, we are caught in the thing again. We are doing that thing again, what we do usually. Why do we do that? Is this one of these times when you feel like I'm shutting you down and you feel like you don't matter to me and you all feel by yourself? And the person says, yes. And the other says, well, I don't want you to feel that way. Come on, let's have some coffee, right? They can de-escalate the situation in that moment. So that is stage one of the EMC process. You have to be able to do that before you can have these bonding conversations. Then stage two of the EMC process, you just don't limit the negative conversations that lead you to the rabbit hole of both being alone. But what you do, you learn how to turn toward each other and BARE, being accessible, responsive, and engaged. How to have these bonding conversations where you can go into your softer emotions and help each other to find that connection by sharing your fears, your vulnerabilities, and needs, which is really the reassurance, what we all need, of safety. And that calms our nervous system. That makes you feel like everything is okay in your world. And those who learn how to have these conversations, they get better by dancing together, by catching those moments, by tuning into each other. And we do this not by just teaching you a bunch of skills and saying, go and practice. We help you to practice in sessions. This is an experiential approach. So you cannot really learn how to dance by watching or by reading about it. You have to actually do it. So you learn by having them. And they're so fulfilling. They're so fulfilling because we long for that connection. It's like taking a starving person and feeding them beautiful food. They remember it. And then they can have this connection. And once you have that the ability to move into that bonding conversation where you need it, you don't live there all the time. You know, the relationships go between distance and connection on a continuum. But when you know you can have that connection, that's the basis for a lifelong bond and thriving. We are bonding mammals, and we understand emotional connection. It's not a constant. Nothing in life is constant. But can you continue to grow and develop again and again? Of course you can. Of course you can. We need to know how to repair relationships because that's our water we swim in. And unfortunately, our society does not teach us that. Our society does not teach people how to have secure relationships, how to repair relationships, how to have a secure bond. Why don't we teach that? We teach kids trigonometry. Why don't we teach people this stuff so they can have relationships? People go to school to learn about teeth. Why don't they learn about relationships? I stand up on conferences and say things like, we are different. We have to respect people's differences. But most of us are happiest when we are connected. And it's possible for us to be connected. We are wired for connection. So when people are connected, they're not only like their jobs, they are happy at work. They grow. They discover something new. Their talents start to flourish. And they find it most thrilling. It's like safe connection makes you play. You become open, responsive, exploring. You try new things. You risk. You dance together in thousands different ways. When you feel that safe connection with people you depend on and you resonate with your team, you are in tune. You are responding, you catching, you're nurturing, and you strengthening your bond. Sometimes you go through life and suddenly you don't even realize and recognize yourself. You don't know how you became this person that you don't even recognize anymore. So why don't we teach people how to create good, secure relationships? In closing, I'm going to leave you with this challenge. What I challenge you to do is to think about the moments in your relationship at work, either with your team member, with your boss, with your direct report, when you feel most vulnerable. I challenge you to close your eyes for a few minutes and think about those moments. Then imagine. And if you can do it after you've imagined, that's great. But maybe it's enough just to imagine. Imagine if you just stay with that vulnerability. If you didn't change it, or fudge it, or cover it up, or disguise it, or turn it into a blame. If you stay with that vulnerability, imagine you turning and telling that person, that is when I get scared. This is what it feels like in my body. This is when I get scared working with you. It's about being vulnerable, right? So this is when I get scared. And if you're going to help me with this feeling right here and right now, what you do is imagine it. Just imagine it. Because if you have an image of it and you know it's possible, then becomes an option for you, maybe when you're caught in that situation, to do that. So I invite you to imagine it. And lots of people have a very hard time doing it. Lots of people, when they get scared, they hold it inside. They're ashamed of it. They feel that it's weak. They don't think that they should feel that way. They don't think the other person will hear it. They don't know what to do with it. And so they're stuck. And they kind of walled inside into their anxiety. And the other person doesn't see it. So the other person, your teammate or your boss or your manager, doesn't respond to it. You know, you can have the most wonderful work relationships with your team members, with your people at work, where you feel like everyone is open and supportive and responsive, where everyone is engaged and present. They're not always going to be able to tune into you. They're going to be distracted. They're going to have their own take on things. They're going to miss your cues. So if you want your needs met in the relationship, you're going to have to find them, accept them, and speak them in a way that the people around you can hear them. Otherwise, it's not going to work. We have to be able to learn how to do that. So this little exercise is just little playing with that and doing it in your head, imagining being able to just sit with that vulnerability and make it into a simple, clear little message. I feel this is what my body feels. This is when I feel it. This feels bad. I don't like it. And this is what happens to me. And I say to myself, I'm not really important to this person. I'm not really valued. And then imagine you turning and saying at these moments to this person. See how specific it was? It's not a great big statement at these moments. This is what happens to me when it comes up for me. This hurts. This is difficult. And what I want to be able to tell you is what I say to myself. And I'd like you to help me with that feeling. And the way you can help me is you just turn and tell me that my feelings are valid and that I am valid. Imagine that and think about that. And if you can do it, and if you're doing it and every day, or not every day, maybe if you're doing it regularly in your relationship, good for you. And when it seems strange and foreign and weird, I invite you to think about it. I invite you to go and get some, this book called Emotional Connection, or take the EMC Masterclass and watch how people do it. Attachment science is not just a guide for our inner world or our relationship. It is a guide for the kind of society we need to create as human beings, a kind of society that human civilizations could really be, which is loving, compassionate, safe society, where we recognize people's humanness and recognize our vulnerabilities. And we can all sing the same song. And that is what attachment is all about. That is what new science of emotional connection brings to all of us. It brings humanness into our workplace. I hope you enjoyed this topic. I love it. I'm so passionate. I'm very grateful for you to be here, and I hope to see you soon. Thank you, everyone, for listening. It's a joy to share these podcasts with you. Be sure to check out our previous podcasts and subscribe to join us at our next podcast of The Leader in You, brought to you by EMC Leaders, taking care of the teams you care about. Until then, be well and be focused on your relationships. We'll see you soon.